Let's talk about releases and prices for all the 40k things coming out this week. We've got a ton of chaos, including the return of the Venom Crawler, and a rather shiny new Leviathan Dreadnought, a lot cheaper than it used to be from Forge World. Hello and welcome back to Warspets Tactics, where today I thought we'd go over Games Workshop's new model releases for 40k and Horus Heresy, talk about the kits that are coming out, how much they're going to cost, and some thoughts on the value and the models themselves. The Chaos Space Marine release has been a bit of an unusual one. For some reason, the first things that they dropped were just the Codex and the Combat Patrol, and all the new kits have been waiting a little bit down the road. Today we have the release of some of them, though not all of them, so I thought we'd talk about what's here, what isn't, and how much they might be costing you if you do want to pick some of these new models up. Before we get into the main model news, I just wanted to do a quick mention for my Warhound Titan giveaway that's going to be happening next month on the channel. As I'm sure plenty of you will be aware, I do monthly giveaways on the channel normally. This one is the single biggest one I've ever done. One person will be receiving an enormous resin and rather expensive Warhound Titan, and if you wanted to be included in the draw, there's two different ways that you can enter. Firstly, you can support the Warspets Tactics Patreon page by any amount per month. The link's in the video description. It is what allows me to keep on making these videos quite so regularly, and there's a fair few other benefits. You can check that out if you're interested in the link down below. Otherwise, you can also enter this completely for free by supporting the channel on social media, subscribe to the YouTube channel, like the Facebook page, and then to enter for the draw, there's a post that appears on the 1st of the month, so 1st of August for this one. Post a photo of any 40k model or imagery along with your name and today's date, and you'll be included in the draw, which will be done with a random number generator. The photo thing is just to stop Facebook bots from overwhelming it and make sure that the winner goes to a real person and not someone spamming accounts. After the entries are in on the 1st of August, I'll do the draw via a random number generator. Everyone's entered once equally, and I'll get in touch with the winner to arrange delivery of a rather big Forge World model. For this one, I figured that I'd ask you which one you wanted, a Chaos or an Imperial Warhound, and your choice of guns for the weapons. I do run similar giveaways every month, though this is a particularly big one. Feel free to check out the Patreon or the Facebook page down in the video description if you're interested. In any case, let's get back to it and talk about this week's Warhammer releases. So overall, the Chaos have got a fair few things coming this week: the new set of Cultists, a Warpsmith, the Chosen Box, the Dark Commune, the Chaos Legionaries Kill Team technically came out last week I believe, and a new interesting set of Venom Crawlers and Obliterators. We've also got the Melee Leviathan Dreadnought, but there's a fair few Chaos things that aren't dropping along with the rest of the sets. I'd say perhaps some of the most hotly anticipated Chaos models are those rather nice new Possessed ones, the really chunky looking ones on the bigger bases that just look all round dangerous. I think a lot of Chaos players are really hoping for those to turn up soon, as well as being really quite cool models in my opinion, they are some of the stronger models that you can field in a Chaos army right now. They're really strong and tough with fast movement, decent attacks and decent damage. I did make an entire video about them a few days back if you're interested. It's just kind of annoying not to have them, as the old Possessed are on smaller bases and are on smaller models. You can certainly run them on the new rules, but for a lot of people I think it makes more sense to either convert them or just hold out for the new kit if you were thinking about adding more Possessed to the army. Otherwise, those freakish accursed cultists were one of the other interesting releases, likely an 8 model kit. Kind of interesting rules in game as well, being able to regenerate models. And finally the Chaos Space Marine Demon Prince. I suspect that one might actually come out alongside the Demons release rather than Chaos Marines. I guess we'll have to wait and see on that front. Still though, hopefully won't be too far behind. It is a bit odd to have the Codex drop a fair bit before a lot of the major model releases. In any case, to go through the actual Chaos releases, first up we have the Cultists, £27.50, €35 or around $45. I think that's fairly standard for Games Workshop's Horde type choices here. These are the guys with the tribal helmets and things, and you can also get those Cultists of the Abyss set, the ones from Blackstone Fortress if you want. The Cultists of the Abyss set only gives you 8 models, so unfortunately it's not a usable squad, but actually per model the cost is quite a bit cheaper, as they're only £19. I guess having more options doesn't hurt though. I guess it depends on whether you want the ranged or the melee version. Next up we have the Warpsmith that was originally from the Eldritch Omens box. Very much the dark mirror of the Primaris Tech Marine. This guy can now make one vehicle hit a little bit better as well as healing things, so it isn't too bad to combine with some really big demon engines and stuff. Then we have the Chaos Chosen, £35, €45 or $60. Again originally from the Eldritch Omens release, and really quite a cool kit, though it was a bit of a shame that they changed their rules so much so they're not quite as flexible. I still think they're a pretty interesting unit, hit fairly hard with their accursed weapons and can pack a bunch of combis if they want to, and they have 3 wounds in game so they stick around a little bit longer than most Chaos Space Marines. Just a bit of a shame that Games Workshop chose to make them a little bit less flexible than before. Pricing wise, I'd say maybe a little bit on the steep side. Maybe not too dissimilar from most other factions' elite choices. I guess it just rankles a tiny bit that they cost the same as Terminators when they're not being quite as threatening as those guys. Next up we have one of the actual new units in the Dark Commune. The Cultist Command Squad is apparently going to be £30, €40 or $50. I think they're quite a fun and characterful little unit, perhaps a bit more use if you're thinking about running things like Accursed Cultists, as they seem like they'd be quite a good buffing option for those. They've got quite a few things going on rules-wise between rerolls, psychic powers and prayers. Hopefully I'll be able to get round to making a unit review for these at some point this week. Price-wise, I think they're more or less what I'd expect. Only a small infantry unit, but really quite a cool one. And given Games Workshop really does like to charge quite a bit for their character models, I think that realistically they were unlikely to be any less than this. Next up we have the Kill Team version of the Chaos Legionaries. As I was suspecting from their previous Kill Team releases, I was guessing that the Legionaries would be released side by side alongside the standard Chaos Space Marines and cost just a little bit more. It seems that the new Kill Team version of the Chaos Space Marine Legionaries are £40, €55 or should be $65. That'll be an extra £2.50, €5 or $5 over the standard kit. For that, you get that extra sprue that has the heavy chain axe, the Reaper chain cannon, and the Balefire acolyte bits, plus a few other fun things like that cool demon sword and the very happy looking head for the champion. I feel like for the extra £2.50 in the UK at least, it doesn't really seem too bad. Maybe a bit more questionable for Europe or the USA, depending on whether or not you actually plan to use those bits, or whether you're planning to just build the squad in a fairly default loadout, say for cheap units for actions and objectives and stuff. I'd bear in mind as well that if you're thinking about picking up the standard combat patrol for Chaos Marines, that would just be the standard Chaos Space Marine kit and not the Kill Team version. Overall, for an extra small sprue, I don't think it's the worst, to be honest, particularly when you have the option of buying the cheaper or more expensive set to suit your needs. Finally, for the Chaos, and perhaps one of the most interesting releases of the week, are the Venom Crawler and Obliterators. I was pretty curious as to how they might bring these back, seeing as they were in that rather good Start Collecting Chaos Space Marines box, alongside the now defunct Greater Possessed, which now I guess just count as unit fillers for the regular squad. Neither the Obliterators nor the Venom Crawler could be brought separately, and from that previous Shadow Spear and Start Collecting box release, I believe that these two share a sprue, which is why you've got the slightly weird value proposition of having both Obliterators and a Venom Crawler bundled into the same thing. Kind of annoying that you can't just say pick up a single Venom Crawler or a set of Obliterators. I guess if they'd really wanted to, they could release a full multi-part plastic kit for either of them, but it seems they're not going down that route yet. On the plus side, it is good to have them not totally unavailable. That was the fate of the Space Marine Gravis Captain and Ancient once the Dark Imperium box went away in 8th edition, so at least they are actually making them available to purchase. Sadly, this is the only one that we don't appear to have prices for yet. I'm going to guess that these would just be direct only from Games Workshop's web store and not one that's on sale in third-party retailers and stuff. Though if I'm mistaken in that, or there are any leaked prices for these out there, please let me know down in the comments. I feel like this is one of the kits that it would be very nice if Games Workshop did charge at a fairly reasonable price for, but just based on what they did with the individual sprues from Dark Imperium, they set those at really quite a high premium, and I really wouldn't be too surprised if these turn out to be fairly steep. Could be an interesting one to watch though. You do get 300 points worth of Chaos Marines out of this, but my guess would be that this almost certainly won't be anywhere near as good value as the previous Start Collecting box. Finally, last but by no means least, we have the Leviathan Dreadnought, the melee version that they just showed off the previous week, and it's kind of interesting that they've been holding this back for quite a while, and then they both preview it and actually release it on sale within a very short amount of time. There's quite a lot of Heresy kits that we've had revealed that haven't been on sale yet. This one's the combat version, so it doesn't have any of the gun arms. It's £47.50, €62.50, which should translate into $80 US. And to be fair to them, this is at least one of the prices of Games Workshop taking a model, translating it to plastic, and making it a lot less. After you've bought both the main body and the individual arms, that's around about half the price that you would have been paying for a Forge World Leviathan before. Though admittedly, if you compare just about anything to the prices that you get at Forge World, it is likely to be at least somewhat good value. I guess in theory, having escaped Forge World, this one should be coming to independent discount retailers as well. So depending on where you are around the world, you might be able to get 10 to 20% off. Places like Element Games in the UK, which I do have links down in the video description if you're interested. Price-wise though, I think that this is at least fairly in line with what I'd expect from Games Workshop. It's a bit more than the Redemptor Dreadnought, $10 as the Redemptor is 70. The models are kind of a similar size, so maybe a small amount of price creep from Games Workshop, but I guess these guys do cost a fair few more points in game, so it does represent a slightly bigger chunk of a Warhammer army. As Games Workshop did previously say, they will be releasing the ranged version of the Leviathan at some point later. That's the one with the storm cannons and the grav bombards. From what they said, it sounds like you're either going to be able to pick up the ranged or the melee version, or a different individual sprue for the ranged weapons if you did want to make a melee version that also has one big gun. If you wind up getting both of those kits, then that would wind up a bit more expensive. My guess would be that if they release a ranged Leviathan version, then that would be just the same cost as this, but I guess we'll have to wait and see for that. I think personally I'd be more tempted by the ranged variants than the melee version myself, though the melee one gets a ton of rule of cool points. So anyway, let me know what you think of the models and the prices down in the comments. I think for the most part these seem at least no worse than Games Workshop's current prices. Nice to have a Leviathan coming out decently cheaper than they were before, and plenty of interesting stuff on the Chaos front, even if we haven't actually got some of the kits that are most hotly anticipated. Feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics if you'd like to see more like this. I will try and cover Games Workshop's news and releases as they come out. Hopefully we'll have other things to talk about in the coming weeks. Finally, if you are interested in being entered for that Warhound Titan giveaway, feel free to check out the links down in the video description, either the Patreon one or the Facebook one on the 1st of August. If you are interested in supporting on the Patreon, it does have a few other advantages as well, seeing certain videos early each week, regular votes to see what sort of things come next on the channel, as well as other things like names in the credits and entry to the prize giveaways. In any case, it should be fun, going to be interesting posting out such a big model. In any case, an absolutely enormous thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.